Find something we really disagree on.
Act like you give a shit.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Some of the things that I wanted to go ahead and hit on while we're talking, so we can just get into some stuff, is
hit on me?
some of the topics that I'm having a hard time getting people to talk about, which is interesting. I can find plenty of people because I got friends on both sides of the aisle, right? When it comes to, we'll just start with a topic, right? We'll say like sensible gun laws, right?
Yeah.
And on everything, I've got much more conservative leaning friends and a lot more, liberal leaning friends, and then ones that are just completely like, they don't give a fuck. They just want to talk shit and have a good time. You know what I mean? But it's harder to get the people that are on the more conservative leaning platform to talk openly in a forum and get them to get on a podcast and just discuss it. And I think that, one, it has to do with maybe I'm not trying hard enough and really pushing for it, but I think that a lot of it, and I'm sure this is polarized, but they don't seem to want, they're cool to like spout it on Facebook and get in an argument and like a chat and a feed. But when it comes to actually like discussing it and speaking openly about it, I'm not sure if they believe their position enough to do it, if they're paranoid that maybe the recording and the like video evidence of their opinions could be used against them at some point, or if they just really don't want to be challenged, which I think is the most of it. Just like the internet banter and the tough guy talk on the chat rooms and shit, like that's like road rage, You'll say and do a lot more behind that wheel and behind that keyboard than you will do in real life. And I think that that's what's happening. So it's really unfortunate because I really want to get like
Can I play devil's advocate just on that?
Sure.
Because it seems strange to me that people would not want to share their views on a podcast that would be, or anything to get your opinion out there, like Facebook, right? Like people are very vocal on Facebook, more so than they would be in real life.
Than they are in real life. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I'm wondering if it's like, I know that you're pretty, because I follow your feed. Like I know you have friends on both sides, because I watch you go at it with them, usually in pretty constructive ways. But I know that I found out in this last election, I lived in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, all my friends are like, think like me and not good because I don't ever get to see the other side. And I'm wondering if part of it's just that, like, so many people that are free thinking or progressive or liberal leaning that.
No, I've talked to them. I've asked them.
Yeah.
I've asked the ones that are more conservative and that are like super, Second Amendment down, and they don't make the time for it, or they don't do this or don't do that. And I think it's because I'm perceived as liberal, or I try and be like really.
Oh, like you're going to put them on trial.
Yeah, I kind of think that like they're not ready for that, or I'm not sure what it is. I mean, one of my really good friends who's very intelligent and very well spoken, he said he's down to do a podcast, but he just doesn't want it to go political. And then you see his posts and he pumps out that bullshit. Like he pumps out the propaganda stuff, you know what I mean? Like attacking the teenagers and like, just bullshit. Like he'll spout shit out every time it pops up if it stacks on that pile of his fire. And I think it's fallen into that whole like the tribal mentality that keeps getting brought up about how people are falling into these ruts and into these sidelines, and they just don't want to upset their group, like who they're with right now, because they look at it as so polarizing that they just don't want to get cast out of the group that they found themselves in now. And it's interesting because I got friends that are like they're absolutely ex-felons or just never caught felons, or spouting this ultra conservative bullshit. And they're like talking like this, like ex-punk rockers and shit like that. Like spouting off this right-wing nonsense that they don't really believe in, or they've turned and now they believe in it because maybe anarchy didn't work out for them. I'm not sure where it comes from, but like it's strange, and it's frustrating because I'm trying to just get a couple of people to like talk, you know, and really hear it out. So I hope that changes, and I hope that I'm able to dial a couple of people in and just let them talk freely, because I'm not gonna pigeonhole them. I'm gonna let them express it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, I'd rather have a right and a left leaning, because I'm balanced. I feel like I'm balanced. I definitely these days lean more more open mindset. But I would really like to get two people that I respect with absolutely opposing views and just moderate, you know, and participate in that middle.
I would like to watch that. I was going to ask, well, I wanted to say something about the kids, if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the Parkland kids, because I figured they'd be crucified by the media, because that's our culture does that, right? Like we take people that are young and inspiring, and then we fucking crucify them. We do it with pop stars and everything else.
Yeah, religious leaders or anything.
Yeah. Like if you're doing too much good in this world or making a difference, like somebody's gonna say, "Fuck you, stop."
I think it's also a very blinding reflection of what they never accomplished to see somebody 17-year-old already getting like listened to, and it really changes.
Yeah, I'm way impressed because like when I was like that age, I was doing a whole lot of nothing, and I didn't even know. So one of the things I want to say was like, man, this new generation in some ways seems to trump mine in so many ways. They understand maybe the political environment a little bit better. I wasn't even paying it. I was worrying about partying and going to clubs.
Right.
I didn't think about.
I'm sure they're still worried about partying and going to clubs.
Well, yeah, probably, but the political spectrum was nowhere on my radar.
Right.
I thought the thing with Laura Ingraham, she's a Fox newscaster.
Oh yeah.
He went after him for his college stuff, and he went after her sponsors, and they pulled funding.
Got it quick.
Yeah, and I was thinking, man, that's pretty smart. I know like a lot of people had things to say about that, but I thought like how smart that is, because lately I've been thinking more about, and it's been in the news, like how our political system, the problem is the money in the political system. Like somehow we have to separate that out to really make a difference to get back to like a core democracy. Because right now, you know, lobbyists by politicians. And I thought it was cool that the younger generation automatically or already knows this and understands it. And instead of going after the, say, newscaster, immediately goes after the money.
Right.
You know, that's how it's going to make the change. And it's cool that corporations respond to that.
Yep.
And I was like, well, wow, the younger generations has learned I can't tell my politician what I believe, but I can tell my corporation who owns my politician what I believe.
Correct.
There's a way to get shit done. I'm like, man, that's pretty smart.
Absolutely. And she turned tail like that.
Yeah.
She immediately threw out an apology that he shut down, which was also great.
Yeah, I'm just super inspired by the young folks.
Yeah, it's not bad. So, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the 15-minute attention span in this country is able to do anything. But I really think that I really believe that nothing that anybody else is saying right now, especially when it comes to that. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the gun laws and like where that really stands with people. The youth today, by and large, does not have the same passion or interest in gun culture. It is used as a prop in movies. It's a tool for music videos. It's something that they face in day-to-day life much more as a threat than they do it as an activity. More people in the United States today go to ballets than hunt. And that's just the fact. You can't change it. You're not going to be able to get them into it. You're not going to like get them rallied up to like all of a sudden fall in love with guns again. I grew up much more interested in guns and shooting and hunting than kids I know of today. Much more. It was a part of our life. Like we all had guns by the time we were 10. We had real guns by the time we were 12. Shotguns, etc. So that was just a part of what we had growing up. But as more and more people move to cities and leave the countryside, it's not a thing anymore. and the gun culture in the city is a different thing altogether. And a few parents here and there trying to get their kids interested in it is not going to change it. It's not going to move. It's not going to be millions. You know what I mean? You're going to be talking about thousands. There's only 5 million registered NRA members at this point anyway, in a country with 300 million. And over 50% of the firearms, just much like wealth, are owned by a small fraction of that percentage. Most of the firearms that are owned in mass by collectors, whether they're legitimate collectors or, you know, psychopaths. They're hoarding them and they keep them in mass. I've got good friends that keep tons of guns unnecessarily, and they buy them, sell them because of the free trade that you can do with it. You know, the private arms sales and stuff like that. And it's a tough situation because they're responsible gun owners, right? So it's like, I'm not against them per se, but I do know that they have laughed about the ease of being able to go and sell those firearms and for money. So they buy them when somebody's low and they turn them to somebody else. They trade them just like stocks. You know what I mean? They're just buying and selling weapons for income, and they really don't care. They pretend like they care, but they will sell guns to a friend who calls a friend and says, "Hey man, go meet my buddy at the parking lot." And they'll go sell them a gun, you know, and that's just the way it is. So this idea that things don't need to be regulated are just not real. The things that I stand by on it are licensing, registration, training, mental health evaluation, and regular reoccurring licensing. Like you have to get it renewed and you have to go in to do it, and banning the sale or banning private sales. And yes, I do also agree with removal of some styles of firearms, ones that are built specifically to emulate weapons of war. And people are like, oh, but you know, a soldier carries a 45 too. Yes, he does in some situations, but the assault weapon presentation is not practical for hunting. It's not practical for home defense. You shouldn't be shooting 30 round clip, 223 rounds in your house. You're going to kill your neighbors because it's going to pass through everything. So for that matter, I mean, shotguns are great for that. I think it's amazing. So to tap in on a couple of those topics, what is your thought on gun ownership in the United States as it is? And do you think there needs to be any alterations? What are your views in general?
I would say my views are probably pretty close to yours. I will, as a disclaimer, say that I can't own a gun legally in this country due to my past. But I still think people should be, even though I can't own one, I think people should be able to own them. I do agree that there is a limit, right? Like I can't, like, even if I could own a gun, I can't buy a bazooka. I'm going to make myself sound really dumb.
No, you really can't. I bring this up all the time. You can't have a bazooka, you can't have a hand grenade, you can't drive a tank.
But my lack of understanding of weaponry, my family, big gun owners, like one half, all hunters, all have multiple guns. I got one guy in my family that's like the nut job, like showed me a sniper rifle, and he's talked about how when he's on the second story, he could hit somebody coming at the house all the way at the end of the street. It's a long street. And I'm like, I don't know why you'd have to think about hitting someone coming at your house, right? Like that's not normal. So I got that guy too. But hey.
And to be clear, you would classify yourself as liberal?
Yeah, I would say yeah. It's funny because guns didn't even, like most of my adult life, I haven't even thought about guns. I mean, when I was younger and involved in criminal activity, some of my friends had guns. I got to shoot their guns. They were not registered or they were illegal. But once I got law-abiding, I like never crossed my mind. I will say, moving to Chicago 3 years ago, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Craig, gun violence is out of control there." And for the most part, never crossed my mind here, except I just recently, about 6 months ago, took another job in West Chicago, and sometimes I vape because I'm a loser, and sometimes I go outside with the smokers and I vape, and sometimes we will have to come in because middle of the day we will hear like bang, 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 someone shooting in the neighborhood.
Right.
definitely became more of a reality for me because I realized, wow, like there could be a stray bullet and I could die vaping. Man, then I'd really feel like
It's a bad way to go, man.
a bad way
That's
to
a
go.
bad way to go.
I would rather someone find me like tell my family I died from autoerotic asphyxiation.
Much more believable.
Yeah. And I die with more dignity than he died while vaping. Yeah, but I think right. Yeah, I think there should be probably like I guess the same way that we regulate cars.
At
right?
a minimum.
Yeah, like there's a license, there's testing. I don't see because my family, I think some of them do have weapons that I would want them not to have.
Right.
Like some of the assault style weapons. And I get it, like they like it. I'm sure it's fun to shoot that. I know that from my experience shooting guns, it feels amazing and powerful. And I do feel bad because I'd say I'm somewhat libertarian. Like I kind of I want people to do whatever the fuck they want to do as long as it doesn't affect me. And I guess I just feel like now I think it's starting to affect enough people where it's like, okay, maybe we need to look into this.
Right.
I don't remember growing up ever hearing about school shootings. I don't know. We're about the same age. I don't know if it just didn't seem like that was really an issue.
Well, not to the scale, but you did still have issues in certain environments, certain cities, certain neighborhoods, stuff like that. You also had much less news coverage and media outcry. You had, it was much less dramatic, but I think that, yeah, it wasn't at the same scale, but I mean, you got to remember during the Clinton era and stuff, I mean, there was a war on crime because things had reached epidemic levels. And so they actually put crime czars together and stuff like that because crime in the United States was massive. And then it took that unbelievable turn where crime started dropping for no reason. You remember in Freakonomics, they cover this as to why in the middle of that, all of a sudden, it just started dropping in every single category and has dropped in every single category since, except for the pockets that are hyper covered by the media. But everywhere else, and by and large, all crime is lower. And in Freakonomics, the only thing they could rationally come up with is that it dropped almost exactly 18 years after Roe v. Wade.
Oh.
So in a sense, the theory is millions of unwanted children not being born into socioeconomic deprived situations or broken home situations removed a certain portion of, unruly boys that would have been grown up hard. And there was really there was nothing else that changed during that time. There was not different laws passed. It was not really any different that took place in the prison systems. As you and I both know, rehabilitation did not get any more effective for criminals. And that was really the only thing that they could tie it to. So yeah, it wasn't really brought up as much.
I was going to say about guns. One of the things that annoys me about the debate and why I would love to see like someone mediate it is because a lot of I have a couple friends that post things, and we talk about these issues, but it's immediately they want to take away the guns still,
right.
and I feel like that's been debunked. Like nobody's I don't know anybody that's like nobody can own a gun. We got to take away the guns.
Nope.
I don't know anybody that, and I'm mostly like liberal friends, and I don't know anybody that's saying that. No. And it's strange to me that that's where the conversation goes because I feel like it detracts from what we could be doing.
But that's the propaganda. That is, call it what it is. That is the NRA propaganda machine, 100%. Third most powerful lobbying group in the United States. People are like, it's a small operation. No, it's not. Third most influential lobbying group is the NRA. And they put that shit out every time. You say, hey, can we just have universal background checks? The Speaker of the House just denied universal background checks coming to the floor to be debated. Universal background checks. This is 90% of Americans want this. And
I don't understand it.
It's the NRA. It's the NRA and their absolute fervor that any sort of regulation means absolute control, which is asinine. You can't carry machine guns because there's gun control. That's a fact. You cannot carry a fully automatic machine gun because of comprehensive gun control, intelligent gun control.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a known felon have a gun. That is gun control. You can't carry an RPG, a bazooka, a rocket launcher, a tank. And nowhere in the Second Amendment, when flintlock, muskets were being used, did they say you can have one gun and not another. They said right to bear arms. But then intelligent people were like, you might not be able to have a nuclear sub. It's an arm, but like you can't have it because I'm sorry, you just can't mount a Gatling gun to the top of your Chevy and drive through downtown. Not going to do it. And that's just a sensible thing. So it is unfortunate because the groups that stand behind that and immediately go to that extreme absolutely cut off any intelligent conversation.
Right.
Period. And the real problem to that is this change is going to happen regardless, because these kids that don't give a shit about this culture are going to be voting, and then they are going to be politicians, and they're going to do whatever the hell they want. And just like in 94, they'll pass a ban on assault weapons if they want. And if there's no massive culture and all those baby boomers are dying off and more people move into cities where they just don't have the same rural need to grow up shooting rabbits, they're going to not be in love with that culture and they're not going to support it. So my concern is that without getting into a real conversation and just giving something, just do something, limit rounds, limit a couple of guns here and there. It's no big deal. If it's really no difference to have an AR-15 versus a different rifle, then what do you care if you lose the AR-15? It's symbolic.
Right.
They were gone for 10 years. There was a assault weapons ban for 10 years. People were like, from 94, people were like, 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. You didn't have these shootings. Right. There was an assault weapon ban. Like it wasn't there. And people were like, oh, but people still, this is the argument that I hate the most. People say, oh, well, drugs are illegal and they still have drugs. So you see how good that worked out. And you're like, that's an asinine thing to say, because that means you're suggesting that rape is illegal, but there are still rapes, so rape should be legal. Like, just because people still do something doesn't mean that you should make it or not try and stop it or not try and regulate it or not try and have it happen. And it's absolutely pointless to make those statements. So if you come at this from a, I don't even know the position, because it's not truly Republican or conservative, and it's not really an NRA platform, because an NRA is the one that banned machine guns after the Valentine's Day massacre. And they are the ones under Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of California, that actually banned carrying loaded firearms in the cities and in the state of California. I mean, they're the ones who put that in with full support of the NRA. So if you're going to have this conversation and you jump in with say, they want to take all your guns, you're a fanatic and you're paranoid. And honestly, if you support mental health background checks and you're paranoid, I don't think you should be able to have a weapon. And if you can't have a rational, calm, balanced conversation about this topic, then you are not sophisticated enough and composed enough to carry a weapon. And I will back that 100%. If you cannot have the conversation, and if when I say, hey, I think people should have to be licensed and trained, I have great ideas for it. I'm like, not only sell them the gun, but if you're going to buy guns, then you have to enroll in a shooting program. Because the NRA was the National Rifleman Association. It wasn't about the Second Amendment. It was to teach people to shoot rifles, to be better shots in case there ever was the need for, militia and stuff like that. Because people just didn't know how to shoot for shit. World War I, we were an untrained military force in World War I. World War II was when people had been trained more from World War I. So the whole NRA concept was just to be a better shot, and they had functions and they had shoot-offs and they had like pheasant hunts and, they did stuff. And that's what I think you should do. If you want to be a part of gun culture, I don't think you should just be able to go in and buy the gun. It's like buying a car, right? It's like you go in, you pay the money, they give you a car, you get a token license or whatever, and then you don't drive that car for 4 or 5 years. It goes into a drawer. It just sits there for 4 or 5 years. And then we're all supposed to feel confident that when it comes down to the moment that you may actually need it, you're going to be able to grab that thing, open it up, turn it on, and drive it correctly, or pull this gun that's been sat for 4 years rusted out, old ass ammo sitting in it. It's just, you're not a participant. That doesn't make you a responsible gun owner. So I think that you buy the gun and you have to join a club and you have to be a part of an active thing. Not only would that give you better trained, competent gun owners, but that would create an industry and a market. And that would be good for the arms dealers.
So
And
so we were talking about money and the kids understanding that money controls politicians, controls like what happens. That's actually not a bad idea. Like find a way to make it profitable.
correct. For the companies involved, for their position, for their platform, for their lobbyists to be able to generate more income. Because hunting's on the way down. Like it's just a fact. It's not a question. It's a fact.
More
There's less
animals are
land.
going extinct, and eventually will be so. As
Exactly. Exactly. So if you did
well.
that,
Nobody to use the guns.
exactly. So if you did that, you would build a culture around it. And we never shot each other or shot ourselves because we were always handling guns. We knew how to handle guns. We knew how to shoot guns. We knew how to look for faulty, damaged ammo, stuff like that. You used to be able to you knew how to sight your own gun so you weren't shooting wildly. This idea that people can just pull out a gun and they're going to hit their target is fucking ridiculous. You ever watch cops? You ever see those videos? Like not the ones where it's like the tragic ones, but even just regular shootouts when people jump out of their cars and start firing at cops, you'll have everybody shooting at each other, including trained officers. They don't hit shit. Nobody hits anything. Happens all the time. Shooting is not easy, and especially under high pressure situations. Like it takes composure. Most contact happens from just wild shots or having a military grade weapon that you can just shoot through walls and kill anything,
Just
random in mass groups. So I think that's a legitimate solution. Not even a solution, just an alternative. Like along with everything else, build the gun culture so that the people that do actually carry arms are reasonably, and you can have a fair amount of assurance that they are trained to do what they to do. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, and I love the idea of somehow making reasonable laws profitable for the gun companies, or make it to where that because right now it's profitable to sell just as many guns as possible.
Right. To anybody.
And maybe there's a way to drive the money behind the law. I think that would be
I would like to really dig into the NRA and the contributions, the corporate contributions to elections, because the most profitable thing that happens to the gun industry is a Democratic president. Every single time. When Obama got in office, the sales and numbers that those guys hit was record highs. Never more gun sales ever than during the time of Obama. Same thing with Clinton. Every time they get in there, the machine says, that Democrat's going to take your guns. And, they get somebody to get there and be like, hold that hands, blah, 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 blah. Go look right now. Remington just filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Oldest gun company in the country filed for bankruptcy. Would have never happened under Hillary. They would have been like selling guns left and right. Crooked Hillary's going to come kill you with her emails and every other thing about her weird hit squads that people believe that she has death squads and stuff like that. But another thing that falls into it, those type of statements, that sort of irrationality, schizophrenia, paranoia, all get written up as, okay, you don't get to have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even a question. Like you're fucking paranoid. You're freaking the fuck out. If you're a flat earther, no gun.
Yeah. I mean, I think about as someone that's not allowed to legally own a gun, like I'm unhappy with the fact that there's freedom that I don't have. Like
Sure.
I would like to have the freedom to be able to buy a gun. I would like that freedom. But I'm able to live with it. It's not destroying my life that I can't. And I think, yes, it would suck if there's certain people that can't own guns, or especially if they're already owning guns and they take them away from them because they,
Right.
Like, hey, you're like thinking there's people living on your roof and under your stairs and.
Right. Well, and then you have the paranoia where that ties into, right? Okay, so a lot of times you'll find that people that are extremely set in their ways about absolutely no gun regulation or control whatsoever, nothing at all. Oftentimes they're not traveled outside of the country. And military doesn't count. One, if you were a combat veteran, you were in intense situations. So you already are going to have a different view of the threat that exists in the world. And if you're trained and you're not suffering from, you didn't go crazy from it, I think that you are one of the ones that can definitely responsibly own firearms. Yeah, we asked a lot of you, and you're able to maintain that, and you didn't completely lose it. Why wouldn't you? Like that seems very fair to me. But the other people have never really traveled anywhere. They've never really gone anywhere. And that unfortunately builds that, that xenophobia where you're just like, I live in this space that's just super threatening and all of that. And it's not. This is not that dangerous of a place in comparison to some places. But the ones who have traveled overseas into countries that I've been to, in actual third world countries or Japan or Europe and stuff like that, it blows me away because they think there's this threat here, but they've been to places that are quote unquote dangerous. And I just want to ask them, I was like, so how was it when you were there? Get their views on it and then be like, and how was it that you didn't have your gun? Because you didn't travel with it. You didn't fly to South America with a firearm. You didn't carry it around. You didn't take it to Europe. You didn't take it to Japan, and you made it back, and you're just fine. You know what I mean? It's like, so they'll go to these actual dangerous places, be just fine, and come back to their lily ass town and be like, oh man, there's threats everywhere. There's all this shit. There's all this other thing. Like, no, there's not. The major threats are self-inflicted gunshot wounds, accidental shootings, or shootings in the home out of crimes of passion. Like, that's generally where it comes in. Most of the crimes that take place are self-inflicted that could have not, or environmentally inflicted, that probably wouldn't have happened at all had there not been a firearm accessible.
Yeah. That makes me not want a gun in my house. That can be really annoying.
So it's complex, man. And I definitely end up coming out on this side of it and sounding like, I do want more regulation, and I do, but it's not because I'm impractical and I'm this, that, and the other. I had a long history with guns. My family's all owns guns. My parents were cops. I had guns legally and illegally. I have a wide range of experiences with them, and I just know that the accessibility of them and how many are on the streets and unregulated are the exact reason that I was able to acquire them illegally, and that so many people I knew got them illegally. I bought my first gun in Popka High School in English class. Like, that was where I bought my first gun. It was easy because guns are fucking everywhere, because anybody can get them and there's no regulating them, and people are bad owners. I stole guns out of cars as a kid, like under the front seats of cars, loaded, just there, unlocked cars, because that's how it goes down. Look up the stats on how many officers get their guns stolen every year. It's really high.
Yeah,
because
it's terrifying.
It is, because they're there in just such high mass and high quantity. And, at the end of the day, it comes down to that fact that it is going to change either way. People are going to change these laws because they feel threatened. And all these kids growing up in this culture where, like, they have to be trained on what to do in an open shooter environment in their schools, like, that's something they have to experience. When they have kids, do you not think that they're going to remember that? And that they're not going to want and pass laws and run for office to change laws, to change that threat to their children? You think they're just going to be like, oh, arming the 70-year-old math teacher is going to fucking do anything? Most of those shootings take place in seconds, in minutes, and it's over. These are not sieges that go on for – too many people watched Die Hard, and they think that that's what it is. Too many fucking people think they're a cowboy when they don't realize that it's just an ambush. And everybody wants to talk about these safe zones, and it's because it's a school, and it's because it's a church. And if you just put a guy there with a gun, or a military person with a gun, or a math teacher with a gun, it's going to fix it. Yeah. But you know what they'll always ignore? Dallas. Dallas took place by one individual on dozens of officers, 5 killed, I believe 9 more shot. And at that event, they were open carrying in the streets, the public. They were walking around with AR-15s. Remember that one guy got confused as the guy because he was carrying his AR-15 on his back, and the news immediately put him out as the suspected shooter, and it wasn't him. There were tons of people with guns, and there was tons and tons of cops also carrying guns, including AR-15s. And they didn't get him with any of. Nobody got him. They blew him up with a robot.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put exploding robots in schools?
Yeah. It's weird. I don't, even though I hear gunshots at work sometimes, like I don't really have a fear. I don't know if I don't feel like I need a gun to protect myself. Because I do feel like if it happened, like we're doing active shooter drills at work, which is sad that we have to do that. Yeah, I just feel like there's nothing, like if it happens, it's just gonna happen. I don't think that, like, I don't have any delusions that I will somehow, if I had access to a weapon, right? I'm not Bruce Willis.
Right, and it's because people don't also understand it's the surprise attack. It's not like you're waiting for it. You know what I mean? And the idea of having it in the school is ridiculous. One, teachers are trying to get their first raise in 10 years. You're going to tell me you're going to spend billions of dollars to arm them, train them, and then what happens? A kid bursts in their classroom and the teacher runs to a lockbox and then another lockbox to open up the ammo to then load the weapon. What, a 38, maybe a 9mm to deal with this guy with a semi-automatic assault rifle and tactical gear and like body armor and stuff like that. It's impractical.
And something else you brought up that I really liked. You were talking about what was it? Education and God, I wish I could go back to that.
License, training.
Well, yeah, but like root causes of this kind of stuff. Like if we put more of our efforts towards like a war on poverty.
Oh yeah.
Reforming our criminal justice system, actually giving people treatment, helping people like me, felons, reconnect with society so I don't feel outcasted and isolated and like, oh, I can't even rent a decent place to live.
Correct.
Yeah, like if we did that, I feel like that would be time better spent. And I feel like some of these other issues that we're talking about might even correct themselves or we'd see improvement. Because I don't know, right, like they would say there's always going to be someone that does something, right? If someone wants to shoot up a school, they're going to find a way, and they would. But I feel like if we addressed some of the root causes of poverty, education, opportunities in this country, yeah, I think we might. I think we'd reduce mental health issues.
Absolutely. Well, the mental health one is a great one because that's one of the knee-jerk things that people say they want done, but then they don't support the funding of it. And so if you're going to say we need to address mental health, but we want to pull all funding for mental health, you can't do that. You can't say one and then the other and not sound like an asshole because that's a fact. You know what I mean? Just like the whole like we don't want to support women having abortions. Okay, then you're going to provide for their child because she can't afford that child because she's 18.
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
Back off? No, not at all. Yeah. And oh, that kid was born and he had a troubled life. Now he needs therapy. Are you going to pay for that? Are you going to assist with that? Oh, no, not at all. And then if you eventually end up with a kid in the judicial system where you pay way fucking more, tens of thousands of dollars a year to house that child, than maybe letting the woman go get her $400 abortion and then wait until she was in a more stable life and economic position to actually have a family and go forward with it and not be fucking a bunch of dicks. But nothing gets done when you just say, everybody just sits and spins and says this nonsense. And that's what I think that new generation that you're inspired by and that I'm inspired by, they're just not going to deal with it. They're not going to fall into the same shit. And when it comes down to them having families, they're going to want them to feel safer than they felt.
I wonder if the next generation will develop, I know they're already starting to, but like a really good solid form of male birth control. I know we have a condom, just so you know, like I know that exists and have used it, but right now it still seems like our society, you brought up abortion, it just made me think about that, like how we still put it on women.
Right.
And
I think that's hopeful thinking. I think that you got to like, You got to protect people's rights to do what they need to do. You need to look at root causes. And, you know, when it comes to the types of firearms, like I agree, like if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But a 9mm that you have to change the clips. You know, they talked about one of the school shootings when the shooter would have to reload. They would say that as 7 people or 11 people were able to escape in between that reload, right? So the difference in having a clip that has 30 rounds that can go through 4 people versus something that is more like commonplace, like a pistol or something like that, it's just a whole different game. And the people talk about the age thing, that all guns should be at 21, and the argument is like, no, they got to be 18. It's like, you already can't buy a pistol if you're 18. You have to be 21 to buy a pistol. So why wouldn't you have to wait till you're 21 to buy a shotgun or an AR-15? That's much more dangerous than the pistol. If anything, it should be the other way around. You know what I mean? But those are just small tokens, and it's not that any one of them fixes anything. It's the idea that you act like you give a shit as a culture, and you take any step, every step. Sure, put guards. Sure, restrict certain ages. Sure, do comprehensive background checks. Sure, do registration and licensing. Do them all. But to just not do anything over and over and over and time again is what's insane.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. And I don't know that any of the things you're mentioning would take away anybody's freedom.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't think it would, like having to get license, training, getting eval. It's more like, you know, there's a hoop or two more that I have to jump through, but ultimately I retain my right to bear arms, have a gun.
Right. There's just accountability.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Absolutely. So with this one, I want to tap in on a couple of these, and I want to kind of just, instead of worrying about like the length of them, because we do like to bullshit, I would like to get on a little more regularly, just when you have a few minutes here or there. And just hit a couple of topics. 1, so that we can get content, and 2, so that we can actually talk.
Yeah, no, I like both those ideas. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we don't get to do that. And I know that we talked about stuff last time, some particular topics in your studies and in your work environment and new research that you're familiar with and things like that. And I would really like to tap into more of those, because I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think I wish, you know what I really like, although this would be hard, if we could find something we really disagree on.
Well, let's think about it. What do we disagree on?
I don't know, man. Your gun control policy is like, we're like pretty much right there at the same level.
Treatment.
I mean, we do disagree on that somewhat. But
yeah, let's talk about that. I think they should bring in shock therapy to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, because there's like there is a need for structure, and structure has been shown to help people with mental illness. Like if you provide them with good structure, and what by structure I mean like you have to attend your groups. You should show up here at this time. It gives them a sense of expectation and normalcy.
Humans need structure.
Routine, yeah. I guess just taking the punitive nature out of it.
Yeah, we should argue about that sometime.
Yeah.
But what else do we disagree on? Let's think about it. What else do we disagree on?
Relationship ideals?
I don't know. I think that, I don't know, we'd have to explore that, because I'm in a new phase of relationship and like caring about it, you know what I mean? In a way that I necessarily didn't before. Not that I didn't care for the people I was with before, but it was much easier for me in a previous relationship to be like, all right, I've tried whatever and you're not changing and I'm out. You know what I mean? Or I'm way more interested in like seeing the next thing and being with the next person. So I'm going to go with that girl now. You know what I mean? So that was always really easy or easier for me. So this is the first time I'm really exploring relationships at this level. You know what I mean? But I would like to talk about that. Politically, I think we're kind of near each other on that.
Polyamory, you're down with people that like that?
Yeah, I'm down for all of that. I don't think there should be any restriction on people's opportunity to try and find happiness. I don't think a lot of it is real. I think that a lot of it is proven over and over again that it just doesn't work out, just like monogamy doesn't work out.
Well,
so
I guess that's what, yeah, I mean, it would be like sometimes relationships just don't work out.
Sometimes relationships don't work out. Yeah.
And sometimes they work out, but only for a short amount of time, and that's how it's maybe like, and that's okay. I've dated some people for shorter periods of time that, and it was great. But both of us realizing that's what it was, because
Oh yeah,
grow.
absolutely. There's no, but see, that's the thing where like, and it's so funny because by definition, all's it really, and I don't have this word for word, but the only really difference between what I've been able to see by definition between conservative and liberal mentality is a conservative likes order, likes a hierarchy, likes a strong leader figure, much more suited to military service, et cetera, et cetera. And that the liberal mindset is more creative, more ambiguous, more, just generally open to multiple solutions in picture form to any one problem. That it's not just black and white, that it's like you can visualize different scenarios. And when I heard that, it was funny when I heard that one, where it said that a liberal mindset is able to see multiple solutions to a problem in picture form. That was funny to me because I was like, that's not how everybody sees a problem. Like, you don't picture the solution.
Right.
And then
I think about because I know I'm an idealist and I'm pretty liberal. I wonder if without people that are more rigid and have a philosophy of might is right, like we're America, we carry a big fucking stick and we're going to carry that big fucking stick. And if you try to cross us, we're going to just blow up your country. Those people, maybe, and I don't know, I'm a pretty privileged individual. Maybe without those people, I'd be dead. Maybe I need some people like that to because who knows? Maybe if everybody thought like me and we were all like liberal and happy and like believe in the human spirit and what we can accomplish in diplomacy, and maybe we'd be enslaved.
While there are people like Putin's, you have to have people like Mattis. You don't need someone like Trump who is a subservient to Putin. That's the greatest threat.
But I'm thinking, yeah, like that.
But you have to have somebody that will stand against that. You ever see Obama stare down fucking Putin? Like, they did not like each other one bit in that one scene where they're shaking hands and he's like looking down and he's like looking down at him and glaring at him. Yeah, like you got to have that shit. There's no question you have to have that.
Yeah, I think that there's, because I realize that I feel privileged to be able to think the way I think.
Yeah.
That I can think about things from outside the box, that I'm safe enough to do that I'm not fighting for life and death every day of my life.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you saw Team America, right?
Yeah.
Remember the speech about pussies and dicks and assholes? That's exactly that story. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good callback.
Yeah, it's a great one. You could play that during a conversation and be like, yeah, we need that check and balance.
That's what I need. Yes.
But it was crazy to me to read that, and it was actually enlightening because as much as I do want to be like open, I really feel like I'm open to all sides of it. I will have that discussion with everybody, which is why I want to explore that more in these conversations. But I mean, there's no question that if that's one of the definitions of the liberal mindset, that you're able to see multiple solutions to a problem, I mean, how is that not paramount?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not? I don't know. That was so weird to me to read it like that. And I want to read into it more because it wasn't a biased presentation. It listed both. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's that. And they were both fairly positive. It wasn't negative about either one of them, but it was tough, man. And I think that because I too am an optimist, that all of this is still coming around to something beneficial. And all of these types of conversations, even us just exploring this one and kind of tapping into it and coming up with subjects later, these type of conversations that people are open to all the time now, like Pod Save America and all these other platforms where people are just talking. You see how many of the old talk show hosts and the even news anchors now just have like sit down one-on-one shows, whether it's Dave Letterman, whether it's
Colbert, Fallon.
Yeah, all these guys are just having these now, and these conversations are starting to take place where you're really just doing that, which is much better than what the news is doing with these opinion panels. And I mean, I put that on all of them, whether it's CNN or whether it's
Oh, I can't
Fox.
watch the news anymore, man.
No,
I
they're
just
so
like
bad.
Fox or CNN, and
Yeah,
I
they're so
immediately
bad.
like, it's just a bunch of people screaming their opinions, and I'm like,
Right. It's just opinion. Yeah, it's opinion circles. That's not news. News is supposed to be boring and informational. You know which one I do like? And I know it's got a lot of bias. It's longer shows I feel are more biased than its news shows. Vice News. And I like it a lot because they will talk about every time. It's every night. It's 30 minutes. So they don't get into it for hours talking about the same shit. And they do like health, nature, art, this, politics. And it's a topic. And they talk about the most prevalent thing that happened that day. And they give the information on it. And then it's on. NPR is still good. BBC is still good. And, you know, sometimes you do got to check in with the big ones because, you know, you're in MSNBCs and stuff like that. Because you still got to, if you still want to know what's happening, you know what I mean? To some degree. And then you can fact check and things like that.
I mean, I think about, I've started diversifying my news source. Like I read an article, I have a friend that writes for the Post, and then I also like Associated Press, and I'll read the articles and there's no opinion. Like,
Right.
I know my friend's opinion. I know what she thinks about what she's writing about, but she doesn't write about that. She just writes, here's what happened. And it's like, I fucking love that because then I get to make up my own mind because I have the facts and I don't have, like, as soon as I start reading an article and I see those fucking words where
Those
they're like,
digs.
yeah, little digs and stuff, bias, I'm like, this is not news. This is like your opinion and like, might be worthless. I know. Like,
Right.
me, I'd rather be able to cite facts and have you make up your mind, and that's what I want.
I miss all the old anchors, all the ones that are still alive. I still read their comments and what they put out, and like they are all disgusted at what the news is today and like what a Hannity is and what these people are. I mean, they're absolutely disgusted with them all, and I miss that. I miss being a kid and sitting there with my aunt, and always there was something skewed. There's no question. Sometimes misinformation happened, but they did retractions, actual retractions. And CNN will do that. If they fuck up, they will put a retraction. Fox will not, ever. The only one on Fox that I can stand is Shepard. That is the only person who just says, no, these are what are real and what are not real, and that's what we're talking about. Like, I love that guy.
I mean, I am hoping that, yeah, all of this causes the newer generation to be more critically, like, I'll admit, like, I was blindsided, like, in the last couple of years. Like, I just would read articles and think, oh, that's true.
Right.
And it's not.
That's what we used to be able to pretty much count on as kids.
Right. There really is fake news.
Yes. Tons of it.
And there's a lot of money behind it. And I now have to really think critically about where I'm getting my news source, and then I'll try to find it in other places.
Well, yeah, that's what the journalistic method was. You found 3 unrelated sources, and if you found 3 unrelated sources corroborating the same information, you could kind of go with it. You know what I mean? Pretty much say.
It's fucking scary. There's that company that came out where they can, they got Obama's voice doing their marketing for it, where they can mock with just a small recording of the voice, they can.
Yeah.
Oh man. And I think about CGI, like it's going to get to a point where there's going to be news that didn't fucking happen, and you're going to be watching it happen.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Watching this dude say this thing, and none of it's real, and technology is going to be so good that the human eye and ear will not be able to distinguish.
There's an awesome article on that on Radiolab and another one on TED Talks, and it shows it, and they have like George Bush talk and just say whatever, and just like they put a suit, like the green suit thing, the pin thing on the one guy, and he just like blah, 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 and says this shit, and it's Bush saying it, and I mean, it's fucking him. But the counter to that is, the thing that will stop that is we didn't know about it. And since we know about it, it'll automatically be questioned. And there'll be verification on whether or not that was real. Fact checking. The one thing that really is awesome about this time is that fact check sites are everything. I mean, it's something that somebody who's polarized, if they're ultra liberal or ultra right, they'll never check a fact check site because they don't want to be wrong. But everybody else, I believe the real majority loves those things. I love those things.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get on there. And I love that it's not just true or false. It's true, partially true, mostly true, somewhat true, partially false, mostly false, false. You know what I mean? And they really break it down. And I'm really grateful that those things exist.
Yeah, because now whenever I see something like slightly fishy, I go to a site and I'm like, all right, is this thing true? Because this looks fishy.
Yeah.
It has caused me to really think a little bit more.
Well, and
I appreciate it about college. I know people like colleges get a bad rap for being all liberal, but I don't know, like college definitely challenged my ways of thinking.
Right.
Like just because I was in class with other people that did not think like me.
Right.
And man, that was awesome. I wish that everybody could go to college because for that experience.
Right.
Like,
Or jail.
Have to work on projects with people or have open classroom discussion. Like fucking ethics class was amazing.
Yeah.
People way different trains of thought on what's right and why it's right. And it's just awesome to. Have you ever done the privilege walk? Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
It's like an activity that you do with people where you ask questions and then they take a step forward or they take a step back.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
I did that in group the other day. I did it in my master's program as a student, and I did it in group. I shouldn't have done it.
No.
My boss warned me against doing it. He's like, don't do this, Craig. Because like one, like I'm a white dude, right? And two, like they're like it's a powerful thing. And I've been a participant, but I'd never run a group on it. And I did it probably with a group of about 30 clients. It's pretty intense. I had one walkout.
Really?
Yeah, I got back with her later and talked about it and like had her, processed her feelings on it and talked about what I learned and what I would do differently next time.
Yeah.
There was lots of strong feelings, guilt, shame. It's crazy. One kid like was breaking down. He's like, I didn't know I wasn't privileged. It was so sad. Like he's like, my mom loved me. It was just me and her, and but I didn't know how poor I was until I started seeing like all these people. He was in the back, and then immediately kept having to step back because of all these answers to these questions about things he didn't have, and he had no idea. Like, and seeing it like right there in front of him,
right?
Just really rocked his world.
The one time I knew for sure, the privilege thing gets thrown around, and it's been taken out of context, and it's not being. I think it's just a knee-jerk thing at this point, and people aren't really putting enough thought into it because. One, white is not really a thing. White is a fabricated expression. Yeah. It's not. I mean, are you talking about Czech? Are you talking about a Spaniard that comes over? Are you talking about a Cuban that you might mistake for being white? Like all of that stuff is different. There are some things that hinge on that will affect you socially and benefit you socially, or be negative to you socially, depending on where you're at. There's no question about that. But just blanketed saying that white is one thing is not true. The highest concentration of impoverished people in this country are white by volume, just because there's more white people. So it's unfortunate to say that because I know some poor fucking people that never had a fucking leg up in their whole goddamn life, and it doesn't matter that they were white. The trailer park that they came from didn't see fucking white as an advantage. But one of the times that I actually did experience it, and whether it was, I don't think it was much as ethnicity for me as it was who my aunt was and her connections. And that wasn't as much about, partially about being white, but mostly about her status in the community as a member of the community, was when I went to jail as a juvenile for having a loaded gun with the serial numbers filed off in a Denny's in Apopka and getting arrested for that. And that when I went to court for it, my aunt showed up with me and we walked in and it was like 2-3 words and I walked out with her and there was nothing and it was expunged. There was no nothing. I got like 40 hours community service and all records.
That's some fucking clout there, bro.
It was good. Yeah. It was good. And it was like, it was real. That was a serious charge. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
I was thinking, the idea, I need to probably come up with a different word for it because I know that when I say the word privilege, some of my friends like immediately turn off and stop the discussion and become defensive. And I'm like, I'm not trying to say that you are this, like that you somehow you're at fault for this, or
But that's the label. That's where it's gone.
The word is like really triggering for people, and I'd like to just I need to come up with a better word just to create an awareness of like people are like I think about like I'm able-bodied. I have all my arms and legs. I'm able to freely move around. I'm articulate, right? I'm able to talk. I can hear. I can see. Like these are all privileges that I have that some people don't. And it's just wanting to create awareness about what we have and how that may impact our interactions in society. But I don't want, but the word privilege, when I bring it up, you're right. People think like, oh, white privilege doesn't exist. Fuck you. I'm not talking about
And
this.
see, I don't think that it doesn't exist. I think that it's unfair to label some fucking kid born to a 15-year-old in West Virginia, you know, that like will never have shit, and compare that to fucking Trump's kid and say that's the same fucking thing.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's why it's triggering, and that's why I want to come up with a better word to just talk about like, well, I guess cultural diversity, like understanding that people come from very different places, and that some of us don't realize. I guess I want to increase the awareness of what we do have. Like if you had an education, some people don't. I think about just being American, right?
Being a what?
Being American,
right?
Like, now I worry about gunshots a little bit because I hear them, right?
Right.
But there are some countries where there's bombs going off.
Yeah, all the time.
There's some countries where we're bombing them and the bombs are going off and there are bombs. I don't have to worry about some U.S. drone flying over and bombing Chicago.
Well, no, you don't have to worry about any military presence on U.S. soil because Billy Bob has got a shotgun and he's a militia.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Red Dawn, baby. That's what you make me think of.
What is it?
Red Dawn from the 80s. Have you ever seen Red Dawn from the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
Patrick Swayze.
Yes, I have. Terrible fucking movie. I thought it was, you know, it was funny. It was one of those cult classics, like a low-level cult classic, and I had never seen it. And Brian had actually told me about it and said how fucking good it was and this, that, and the other. And you ever, like, not see a movie in a really long time and then you invite your friends to see it? And then they watch it with you, and you're like, "Oh man, I remember this as being way better."
So okay, yeah, I haven't seen it since the '80s, so I don't know if it held up.
It does not. Like horrible. Like how Mad Max, the first one, is not good, and when you watch it, you're like, "Oh my god, I remember this being so better."
Yeah,
so much better. Did you see this in picture? I'm gonna show you this. It's so fucking good.
Nice.
I'm a militia. And they've made it with the whole logo, the NRA logo. It says the National Ralph Association.
That's good.
Yeah. I probably won't put that one in, but another one I might not put in it because like we're just talking is you know the actress that played Wonder Woman?
Gal Gadot?
Yeah. Did you hear her get attacked for what she said about Stephen Hawking when he died?
No.
This is where liberalism, fanaticism merge, and this is why people don't take people seriously when they say, "Hey, can we have people have background check?" She said, "I know now he is walking in heaven." That was a nice thing to say. People slammed her for being an ableist. Ableist is a new thing where you suggest that somebody who is unable to do something is not satisfied or validating their life. So basically don't feel sorry for handicapped people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's apparently a thing.
And
I
would get that you wouldn't want to
you would want to push him out of his chair and say, "Hey, you can't walk."
Right, but
right.
Yeah, that seems like a sweet sentiment.
It was, but unless you're on the other end where you're a fanatic and you call her an ableist.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting conversation because he said that before his disability, he was not happy. He was not a happy person. And his disability made him live for the moment, because he was only supposed to live for a couple of years, not 50. And he actually outlived ALS. Like, they think that he had it so long, it just stopped progressing, because he should have died in a few years. His lungs should have paralyzed. Like, everything should have stopped. That dude was running his whole shit off of one muscle in his cheek. You know what I mean? His whole game, one little muscle. And so it was ridiculous. I also have a theory, bringing him up real quick. We'll go pretty soon. I know it's getting late, but I wonder, because that was a bad one. Like, I really, you kind of knew always that was coming, but that really sucked, because the world really did get dumber.
Yeah.
But the counter to that is, did it get dumber, or did his genius reach so many people that people like me that don't know shit about shit actually understand some things now? And
a little bit more, yeah, because
he made science sexy. You know what I mean? Like, he fucking made it like, we're holy shit, you're into this. I mean, what astrophysicist has and cosmologist has a best-selling book? You know what I mean? New York Times best-selling book for years and years and years. You know what I mean? Brief History of Time. But I wondered if he had a living will, and if that final muscle stopped. And in the will was when it stopped to take him off of his breathing assistance and his other things. Because could you imagine if he became completely paralyzed and no longer able to communicate the thoughts in his mind, how huge his mind was to not be able to express that out? So I wonder if he did just die, from the disease. I mean, he was in his damn 70s, or if that was the case, because they don't really talk about how he died.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Right? And I would want to go then. I would put that in.
Express myself in any way, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Metallica song. You know what I mean?
It's like being in solitary confinement.
But for real,
I would not want to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would not be okay.
Live in a world where I could not experience or express myself.
Yeah. So I know it's late. My girl's walking by. So let's think real quick. Brainstorm. Is there anything we disagree on fully?
Oh.
Kids. Yay or nay?
Oh, I hate them.
Yeah, I know they're necessary for like life, but I don't really think.
They're evil.
Yeah,
I mean, I love my nieces and nephews. If they're watching.
Everybody else sucks but you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so kids, nah. Dogs, yes.
Yeah, dogs. Yeah, definitely dogs.
You don't care about eating plants or animals?
No, I should.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I feel guilty for being a meat eater.
I don't feel guilty for being a meat eater.
I feel guilty because I know, like, I'm aware of all the things I could do to help this planet.
You know why that isn't necessarily true? Because farming and farmland to grow those crops still murders millions and millions and millions of animals, period. You think they'll let those deer come in there and chomp up all the carrots? You think they let those rabbits survive and make little nests there in the farmland? You think the gophers make it? You know what I mean? It's just not true.
I get that, but I think we could feed more people if we switch to I'm sure that right now we could
Hold on. What? You're gonna go get nail polishes? You have 50 nail polishes.
I want bright colored ones.
I mean 51, Chris.
I need 51. I don't grab your water from CVS.
No,
or you
water.
want it from me? Oh.
Yeah. All right, so what were you saying now? You think that it would do better if we ate?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I'm well aware that there's a lot of things I could do in my life that would be, I have the cognitive dissonance constantly about, like, I'm not doing enough. I battle between, like, being, like, someone that wants to care about the future generation and push it forward, and then a fucking complete hedonist.
I think that the amount of people on the planet will always be an issue to production of goods to service that many people. I don't think it matters if it's animals or plants.
I think we probably have the technology today to solve most of our problems.
We do, but what I'm saying is, if you made it all
but
food,
I can't even get over myself.
Right, but if you made it all plant-based, you would have to have so much more farmland. Farmland is only farmland because of the nitrogens that you pump into the soil to make it grow, right? Am I saying that right? Nitrogens? Nitrates.
I don't know enough about this to speak intelligently on it.
Fertilizer. It's fertilizer.
I think
the farmland, the fertilizing of the soil is the reason that rivers produce so much extra nutrient that when it comes out into the ocean, it plumes, and the algae levels have these massive kill zones, like in the Gulf of Mexico, because the algae plumes suck all of the oxygen out of the water, and every fish in it dies. And no fish can swim into these. And they're miles, hundreds of miles out into sea to create these dead zones. So by having more people and growing more plants, you're going to produce more of this fertilizer and more of this runoff. And you're always going to have a counter to it.
Or we're overfishing.
That's not what happens in the dead zones.
I'm just saying.
No, that you can't fish in the dead zones because the runoff from growing corn in Ohio runs down and it kills the ecosystem.
I will still believe that I'm okay. So I just had a fucking prime rib this week. It was delicious.
Okay.
So I'm not changing my behavior, even though
right.
I should, because I do think it would be more beneficial.
For what though? That's what I'm saying. You're knee jerking your answer. You got to look at the other side. Okay, nobody eats another animal again. First of all, you devastate every island nation in the world. You destroy them because they can't grow that kind of food. And they have nothing to export because you took fishing away from them. So now you've just decimated 80% of the world because most people live on the coast and they fish and they benefit from the fishing industry. And all island nations who only exist on trade, and predominantly that has to do with fishing, you wipe them out. So you have to know that right out the gate.
I'm not saying that, certainly like, I'm thinking about like American culture. Like I can go to the grocery store and buy whatever I want. I can be much smarter about what I'm buying and what I'm consuming to better support the globe and society in general. But I like what I like, and I'm hedonistic, and I will go spend a bunch of money to buy a prime rib.
And I'm simply saying that it's not actually 100% beneficial to the nation to just say no more fish and animals. You still have to take into account the density of the populations that live. Like, what the fuck is Maine going to do without lobster? You know what I'm saying? No, only so many blueberries to go around. You know what I mean? And the fishing off
I'm not saying coast. Right. I'm just thinking like there's a lot of things we could probably. That's one of them. I think about what just small things I've done, like how we recycle, how we use, how disposable everything that I use is. I mean,
the problem with recycling is, because we're gonna do this now. We're gonna do devil's advocate. Problem with recycling is most of what you put in the recycling bin doesn't get recycled. It goes to landfill. That's a fact. We can't actually recycle it. We don't have the facilities. We don't have the need for it. It's more, we produce more than we can actually use. I agree with you on first of all, I think you should outlaw plastics. I think plastics should be regulated massively because that's actually what's decimating the ocean. That's what's killing everything is the amount of plastics that float in the ocean and the byproducts of that shit. So I think that's a good one. Get rid of that.
I know what we need to regulate.
What's that?
This goes back to our previous points. Kids.
Yes.
Nobody gets to have any more.
Well, taper it down.
No, nobody gets to have any more. We just throw a grand party for the next 80 years, use up as many resources as we want.
Then we all die. Everybody's done.
Mankind signing off.
One mass sterilization project.
Yeah, we had a great run at it. You know, we're just gonna go out with a bang. Use up all the oil, all the food, whatever we want, and then we'll just we're out.
But that won't happen.
We'll leave one computer running that can just tell our story.
I want to say one thing that I've actually heard as far as what would really work. Because one, you need proteins. I don't agree that like everybody can just do plant-based. Plant-based living is not even cheap. It's very expensive. But one of the things I think that would help, and most countries not most, but a large number of countries do and have always done this. And if we could get past the idiot squeamishness of it, we could sustain ourselves off it, is eating insects at a massive level. like mealworm replacement for burger meat and all of that shit. Many countries, when you go to market, it's bugs. It's no different than when you see shrimp and scallops and squids and catfish and flounder. Those are bugs. Crabs, lobsters, they're bugs. They're sea roaches. They even fucking look like sea roaches. Like, it's all the same shit. Little chewy, crusty things that we say are good. You know, back in the day in Europe, lobster were considered a nuisance to fishermen because they would get caught in their nets, and they fucking hated them, and they'd stomp on them, and they'd throw them over, and they'd crush them. That way they'd fucking die. Fucking hated them. Pesky little things would cut up their nets and all this shit. So what they would do is they would bring them to the ones that would bring them back to port, and they would give them to the orphanages because they were like, here's this garbage ass shitty lobster meat, this fucking sea bug. You fucking poor little bastard kids might as well eat it. So just people's mindset at the time was that's garbage food. That's disgusting. And then it became bougie. Now it's the most expensive meat you fucking buy next to like Kobe, you know?
Yeah.
And that just shows on an attitude. And if you could change that over, do you know how many fucking bugs you can grow in one warehouse? How many tons and tons, how fast they reproduce? They can live off of our garbage. You could literally take our shit and garbage and throw it into a fucking warehouse. It's just like mushroom farms. Mushrooms are fucking gross. They grow it in horse shit. It's mold that grows in horse shit, but it's fucking delicious. But if you actually broke it down that you're eating fucking fungus growing out of poop, it doesn't sound glamorous, but you cook it up. You know what I mean? You throw it on a fucking steak and all of a sudden it's this bougie ass shit. I am so for the production of bugs, not only like ground down into meals and shit like that, but just straight up eating them. My aunt brought back ants and crickets from Africa, you know, chocolate covered crickets. And those honey-ass ants, their abdomen is like that big and it's one big ball of honey in their abdomen. You just bite it and it's honey burst. I'd be about that shit.
Yeah, I would not, but I get your point.
What do you mean you would not? What do you mean you would not?
It's
Why
again,
would you
it's
not?
like, no, your point is valid. I should.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try it? Seriously, why wouldn't you try it?
Oh, I don't know if I wouldn't try it.
Okay. What if you tried it and you liked it?
Then I would do it.
Do you know that you could seriously fix that problem? Just like, have you done any of the research on algae, bioalgae fuel? Algae for fuel and for food is fucking unbelievable and easy as fuck to grow. Like, endless supplies of it by just running water down long troughs. It takes nothing to grow algae. And they are able to process algae into fuel, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, algae. And all you got to do, these dudes have these fucking troughs, they're 10 inches, 12 inches wide, a couple inches deep, hundreds of yards long, just trickling water down the whole thing, and it's just growing algae.
We need to, here's what I want, you know what I would like to see from your podcast? Like just one, you could do like a special episode where it's like multiple guests, like little short clips, like 10-minute clips.
That's what I want to do.
Of like scientists.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
I
Like
know.
have each one have their little spiel, you know, like, hey, this is the, like someone that's doing the nuts and bolts work of it. Because I know that there's spokespeople, you know what I mean, for things, but it would be cool to hear like a day-to-day, like a climate scientist, right? Like, here are the nuts and bolts of like one specific study that they've done and how they've done it. You know, like it would be cool to hear more about that.
Absolutely.
I would like that.
And I'm in a
Tell me that I should eat prime rib, because I would like that. I would like a scientist to tell me that.
what?
That I should eat prime rib. 'Cause then I'll go order another one next week.
I don't think you should feel guilt about eating a fucking prime rib. I think you're taught to feel guilt about that. Just like I almost felt guilt when I lost Diablo because I thought I should go get a rescue. And like, even when I got Copper, I was still questioning it. I was like, I should be getting a rescue. And then I was like, why am I saying that? I'm rescuing Copper. He could end up in an abusive home and end up in a fucking kennel someday.
Said he got the best dog owner on the planet.
Right. So but that's how I felt. I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I fucking believing that I'm feeling guilty right now? You don't feel guilty. You fucking enjoyed it. You went and got another one. You don't really feel guilty about it. You're guilty because you don't feel guilty enough to go get it.
Well, I feel guilty for not taking more action when I know I could.
I think you feel guilty for not feeling guilty about it.
Oh, that might be. Yeah.
No, I think that's really it.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
Yeah, I don't think you fucking feel guilty about it.
Right, because like I'll still do it. Right.
Yeah,
like,
you don't.
I don't feel guilty enough to stop.
Right. You don't go punch your girlfriend in the face because you don't want to do it and you feel guilty about doing that. You don't punch her and then come talk to me later and go, man, I really got to stop punching her in the face. You know what I mean? Punching spouses is not funny, people. But like, that's a real thing. You know what I mean? So I think, I just don't think, I think that's more in line with what it is.
All right, I'm taking off. I'm going to go shoot some people in my video game.